want to move the two front seats all the way forward and then take these two bolts out in the back. You're going to use a T50 socket Torx bit. Take those out. Pull those out. The seat should be able to rock like this. If you have to, you can pull the seat out. It's kind of clipped into the front. You may have to recline the seat a little bit to get the right angle. Just grab the seat, slide it up, and then slide it out. Now it's completely loose. We want to detach the seat belt from the seat, so we're going to take that screw out right there. Use a T30 socket. Take that out. And then just grab the seat belt, rock this cover back and forth a little bit. Pull that cover off and slide the seat belt out. There might be one of these little retainers right here that just holds the bolt in there. You can just set that aside. Now we can disconnect this connector right here. There's a little lock tab. Slide that back first, push down, and then slide the connector off. And just check, make sure there's no other wires. This looks good right here. Now just grab the seat. You're gonna have to move it forward a little bit and very carefully slide it out. If the headrest is in your way, take the headrest off, but you should be able to twist it. And slide it out. On the passenger side, we're gonna do the same. With the seat all the way forward, use the T50 socket. Loosen these two bolts up. And take them out. Take those bolts out. And disconnect the seatbelt, T30 socket. Pull that cover down. Make sure you take that retainer out. And slide the seatbelt out. And the connector is the same as the other side. Just slide back on the lock, push down, and slide it out. And just grab the seat, slide it forward, and just be careful not to scratch anything. And slide it out. Now we're going to take these bolts out on the back seat. These are the two front ones. Use a 13mm socket. Take both of those out. Now we're just going to grab the handle underneath and move the whole seat forward. I'll just grab the handle, fold this down so we can access the rear bolts. Take the rear bolts out, use an 18mm socket. Now you want to lift up the seat and twist it. It's a good idea to have a helper get this out. And just slide it out. Take this panel off right here. Just try to grab underneath it. And just pull. Grab over here. Just pulls out. There's a push pin right here. Just use a trim tool. Take that push pin out. And you can slide the whole panel out. You can do the same on the other side. There's no push pin on this side. It's just push pins holding it in. Take these trim pieces off. You can use a trim tool and just slide in between here and just pry it that way. There's some clips that go in like that. Do the same on this side. we go. There's 2 screws on both sides. Take those out. Use a 7mm socket. There's a couple tabs on the side. Just pry out on those tabs. Might need a pick or a screwdriver. You can take this piece off right here. Just slides out. There you go. And there's a couple wires in the back you're gonna have to disconnect. That's for the auxiliary electrical port. And then there's another wire right here for a light. Just push down on the tab, slide that out. You just twist this a little bit to the side and it comes right out. Undo the shifter cable. So take some type of pry tool and just get underneath here. That pops off. And then right here there's a little push retainer. You just push that and this slides up. And as long as this is loose, this is okay. You don't want to push this down. You don't want to shift the transmission. So that's good right there, because it's going to slide out when we take the whole center console out. Now there's a bolt right here and one over here. Use a 10mm socket. Take those off. Take this 10mm bolt off, use a 10mm socket. Slide that off. Use a 10mm socket, take these 2 bolts out. There's a 10mm bolt right there, take that off. Take this cap up, just use a screwdriver, just pry under here. It should lift up like that. Then you can see a nut. Use a 10mm socket. Take that nut off. And there's one on the other side as well. Pick this up, just slide it out. And there's a couple wires underneath here. And we have some wires right here we have to disconnect. Push down on this tab and slide it out. There we go. And then this connector as well. This is a ratchet style connector. There's a little push tab here. Push down on that. And this slides out. Now you can take the console completely out of the car and just slide it out. Now we're going to get underneath the trim. Just use a trim tool. Raise this up. Pop these out. Then this should slide out as well. There we go. Underneath there, those are just clips that come right up, and then these are pushed in on the side. Take that piece out. Do the same on the one in the back door. This just lifts up. You could leave this attached if you want to. Now take your trim tool, get behind here. Just pop this out. And just grab it. Give it a yank like that. And it should pop up as well. There's clips on the back side of here. And then on the bottom, there's a clip. On the back side, there's a clip, so it comes straight up. And then this clip just popped off there, but that comes out. Now I'll do the same on the other side. comes out the same way. And in the back doors, take this piece up. And the B-pillar. If you haven't taken this out yet, just slide it up, put it aside, take this panel off, just grab underneath, just pull straight up. Take these covers off, just take a screwdriver, just get underneath here and they pop right off. Do this on both sides. Take these screws out, use a T40 socket. Oops. Now with a trim tool, just get underneath here. It is clipped into this top panel. So do what you can to try to separate this. And just get underneath here. There we go. There's some push pins holding it in. So right there's a push pin and some down there. Should be able to get that out. And the other side's going to be very similar. Just get behind here, pry out. The major difference is we have a wire connector on the inside of this. So disconnect this. It's for the auxiliary power. And then everything else is the same. On both sides we have the connectors that go under the seat. Just grab these, lift these up. We want to just put these underneath the carpet, just like that. Some change in there. And near the seat belt, just make sure there's a slit in there so that you can pull it past the seat belt. And just pull the carpet up. You can just fold it. You should be able to just pull it out. Just get it past the vents on the side there. And pull. And then you can just slide it right out. If there's a lot of dirt under here and you want to, you can vacuum it, suck it all out, but either way, or it's just going to be under the rug. Now we're going to take the jute. This goes underneath the carpet. On the old carpet, it was attached to it, which this one it's not, and that's okay. Just line it up. This part where the footrest is goes on the driver's side. It pretty much lines up with everything to an extent. Slide the wires through here. This is just like insulation. There's going to be areas where you need to trim. Just use some scissors. Or you can use some type of cutting tool. It's supposed to line up right there. This looks good. I recommend cutting right here. You're going to have to access that connector. So on this side where this connector is gonna go, there's a stud right there that you can't see. So you wanna cut a hole right there, or you can even just trim this right around. Like I said, it's just insulation. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's all gonna get covered up by the carpet. And then you'll be able to push this in over there like that, but we have to put the carpet in first because we're gonna have to trim that out for the carpet. And for the back seat, just slide this in position. And you're gonna have to trim this one as well. Make sure you get the holes lined up. So cut the carpet out over here. Well, the jute, they call this jute. So you have the holes for where the seats are gonna line up. And if it seems like it's not contoured right, you can trim this a little bit. And again, it's just insulation. Take the old carpet, lay it down flat on the ground, and then take the new carpet and just fold it over on top of it. And you can see where there's some areas that line up. This side is the driver's side, so that's going to be close to that area. And there's some different bumps. Like right here, there's a bump, so that's going to line up right there. And you can see it overlaps a lot in the front. So what we want to do is, with it kind of flat, I'm going to trim out the front before we slide it into the car. We don't want to trim too much. It's better to trim less than more in case you trim too much. But we'll use some scissors, or you can use a utility knife. You can do the best you can to try to make it match, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So I trimmed out the front of this, so this should fit fairly good underneath. I may have to trim it a little bit more while it's in the car, and the rest of it I'll trim while it's in the car. Just slide it in the car, unfold it. You can see where these spots right here are supposed to go right there and there. We're gonna have to cut those out also. And just slide it under the gas pedal, brakes, and underneath the vent right there. So we can see where we can trim it a little more. We can trim it down here. And slide this underneath. Let's cut out some parts for the center console where you can see. You can compare the other one, but again, sometimes it's easier to just make sure it's lined up and then trim around the pieces that need to be trimmed. And remember, a lot of this is going to be covered up. You're going to have the center console in here, and you're going to have the seats down and stuff. So this is where the vent is going to go. Just feel around for it. As long as that's lined up, I'll just trim right there. And slide that underneath. It's going to go like that. That connector is going to go over here. So feel around for that connector. Slide it out. We can find where the studs are. And you could just push down in the carpet over the studs, then you can see them. We'll trim it out. So the other stud is actually over here. So there's the two studs. That lined up. And push it down just like that. Just be careful, don't cut the seatbelt. And then where the seatbelt goes, just make a slice down here. Just go around the seatbelt. You can make a little notch if if you want to. Just like that. And then in the back, you can tuck it in underneath. You don't necessarily have to trim the excess in the back. With this lined up, there's 2 studs for the center console. You can just push through there. You can trim around if you want, or you can just lay the center console right on top, which we probably will do. Where the seat's gonna go, I'm just gonna trim this out. Just use a utility knife. This side also. And then with that all set, these lined up, just double check your carpet, make sure it's looking good near the edge. You may have to adjust. You have to pull this over a little bit, but that looks good. And then I'll cut out where the front seats go, the front part of the front seats. Just cut a little window. Just like that. You can do the same on this side. And be careful not to trim any wires while you're doing this. You may go through a couple blades. It dulls the blades really quickly. And find the vent, and about an inch back from the edge of the vent, just make a slice. And just feed this under the vent. I'll take that wiring harness that goes through there, the connector. Oops. Slide that through. And just push down where the studs are. And if the carpet seems like it's in a good place, you can just secure this right onto those studs. Or if you want to trim it out a little bit, if it seems like it's pulling a little too much, you can trim around the studs and just make it fit a little better. But this looks pretty good. And now cut out the same area where the seat's gonna go. It's all set. Now this side as well. If you're wondering how this should fit, if you're trimming too much, obviously you don't want to trim too much. Take some of the panels. You can reinstall these, or just get them lined up where they're supposed to go, and then you can see, okay, this looks good. So you don't have to trim back too much. And then same with the other panels. And I'll just trim the front part of the seat, where the seat goes. And same with the seats. You could always just put the seats in if you want to test fit those, but it's more of a pain. So just do the best you can. To trim out the holes for the back seat, just lift underneath. You can find where the hole is. It's right about there, so we can trim that out. And we'll do the same with the other side. And then on the back, we're going to find where the hole is for that, right there. And with it all trimmed out right there, or all in place, just trim it out. There we go. I'm going to start by putting the B pillar in first, as far as trim goes. Line it up. Get the seatbelt out of the way. And just roll the weather stripping over the pillar. Now put the back piece of trim in below the C pillar. Get all this to line up. Remember, on the driver's side, you're going to plug this auxiliary outlet in. Right there. And put these hooks on. Tighten them down. Put the little covers on. Now take the front one, line this up, and slide the weather strip in place. And now we'll do the same on the other side. Start with the B pillar. And slide the back trim on. It's all lined up. Put these hooks in. Tighten them down. Put the black covers on. And line this piece up. Snap it down. And the front piece. Put the center console in. We gotta plug in the connectors underneath. Plug this in. Lock it down. The other connector. And make sure you feed the shifter cable through there. Now get all the nuts and bolts lined up. Make sure that looks good. We'll get that nut started. And then the bolts over here. Get these all started before you tighten those up, just in case you're off a little bit and you have to adjust. I'll start with tightening these two in the front because this is going to pull the whole console forward. Now that's all the way forward. Now you can tighten down the other ones. Attach the shifter cable. that in place and then slide that down. That's good. Take this trim piece, slide it around the shifter. And in behind, make sure you plug in the connectors. The auxiliary outlet. And this other little connector. Just connect that. Just try to line this up. And it's all the way on. Put the 2 screws in on each side. And tighten these down. And line the trim pieces up. And put this tray back in. And the side panels. And this panel. And this one has a trim piece in the front, a trim clip. Oh, there we go. And just tip it down. And just slide it in place. Get these rear bolts lined up. Get them started. And before we tighten these down, slide this back. Get these bolts started. Tighten these down first. And the back ones. At this time, you can put this rear cover back in. And put the front seats in. Now hook up the connector, lock it in, and lock it down. All right. And then the front of the seats, make sure that the 2 anchors go in place. And just put the bolts in the back. Get those started. And tighten these down. Now we're going to install the seat belt to the seat. Make sure it's not twisted. Now line this up down below. It locks in place. And close the cover and tighten the bolt. Now install the driver's side seat and connect the connector. Line that up. Lock it down. Push down on the lock. Just get those to line up. Move the seat forward. And put the bolts in. Get those bolts started. And tighten these down. Now install the seat belt. And if this popped off, you can pop this back on. Bolt's gonna go through here. Slide that on like that. Close the cover and tighten the bolt. Once the carpet's all done, if you have floor mats, you're going to want to take these anchors out of the old carpet and transfer them to the new one. The reason why you need to do this once the carpet's completely in is if the carpet shifted a little bit, you want to make sure those floor mats sit in the right position. So flip this over using a straight blade screwdriver. We can pop these off. There is just a clip holding these in. Slide these out, just like that. That's just how the clip goes. To get these to line up properly, take the new floor mat, position it, and then you can mark where the holes are underneath there. And then you can recreate this right here, slice this pocket and this pocket, and same on the other side, and reattach it. Lock it back down, do the same with that one.